On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
But why?
That's the sound from a 29-second video taken by a bystander on Friday afternoon as a Hasidic man was being attacked in a Montreal park by an unknown suspect, while his 3 terrified young daughters cling to his arms and shout. The video doesn't show what happened leading up to the attack, but it shows the suspect straddling the father, lying on the ground and punching him at least 5 times in the face. When the beating stopped, the girls helped their father stand up. They watched the man walk calmly away as he picks up some of his belongings, puts them into a red fabric grocery bag, and leaves the scene. The attacker also appeared to pick up the victim's kippah and throw it to the ground. Several bystanders can be seen in the park when the violence was happening, but only one of them, according to reports, a woman, called the police, although she didn't break up the action, but she did stay with the injured man until the police came. She also reportedly sent her phone's video to the victim, which is how it ended up on a Jewish community WhatsApp group and eventually onto social media, where after one Montreal Jewish community leader posted it, it was shared nearly 700,000 times. The attack at the park at Beaumont and Delepe Avenue, west of Park Avenue, happened in the area with a large haredi Jewish population, and it shocked the community and prompted condemnation from many Canadian politicians and Israeli leaders, too, who referenced the growing anti-Semitism in Canada, unchecked anti-Israel protests in the streets, which some say have been emboldened by Prime Minister Mark Carney's frequent rebukes of Israeli government policy and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, including most recently his announcement that Canada will recognize Palestine as an independent state next month. The victim was treated for what police call non-life-threatening injuries, but the CJN has learned he was released from hospital with a broken nose, bruises on his face, and very traumatized, and his daughters were too. Some reports say it took police a very long time to arrive. One person said it was about an hour. Jewish leaders have called for a full police investigation and swift justice. Some fear copycat attacks, too, so Montreal's Federation CJA is urging the community to be vigilant while the police investigate.
It's not just enough to have a presence when there's a Jewish event taking place. We are living in a world where we are constantly under attack, and every single one of us is a moving target.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, August the 11th, 2025. Welcome to North Star, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, made possible thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. You might have seen the video of Friday's attack. If not, there's a link to it in our show notes. Meyer Feig posted it on X on Friday. He's a spokesperson for the Quebec Council of Hasidic Jews, and he's a volunteer emergency paramedic in Montreal. Feig wasn't in the city when it happened, but he's been in touch with the victim, who he knows personally. He's asked us not to use the victim's name, but says the man is a resident of the area and is part of the Skver religious sect of Haredim. Feig says he predicted a crime like this would happen because for nearly 2 years, since October 7th, Montreal has seen nearly 1,000 protests and demonstrations about the Israel-Hamas war. Meanwhile, Montreal police have reported nearly 600 hate crimes and hate incidents in 2024. Both of those types went up noticeably, and most were against Jews. Coming up, we'll hear what the Jewish Community Council's executive director, Rabbi Saul Emanuel, wants done. But first, Meyer Feig joins me from the Catskills.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, not such a pleasure because we wish we didn't have to talk about this. Can you bring our listeners up to date on basically the latest information that you have on the attack on this Montreal father of three?
What happened was he was walking with his 3 kids, and he saw a little park on the side of the street, and he decided to spend some time with his 3 kids there. As you can see on the video, there is a sprinkler system there. What seemed to be a disturbed person came over and took some water and started spraying at him and his kids. So the father, naturally, protecting his kids and himself, asked the guy, like, what are you doing? What's up? And he did have a cup of water in his hand. He doesn't remember if he instinctively sprayed back or not, but then this guy just came in and started attacking him viciously in front of his kids.
Can you tell us if this was the Beaumont de Lippy Park, or de Lippe, I should say, which my father grew up on de Lippy Street, or where is it exactly?
It's a small little park on Beaumont and the Lippy that they just built in the last couple of years for the neighborhood. Really a small, new little park. So
Across from the Vanier campus there, that big building.
yes.
And does this family live in the neighborhood? Do you know anything about them? You met them, or you know who they are?
They live in Outremont. They actually previously had worked for my brother-in-law in his business, so I know him personally.
What, they go to the Bell Shul that's nearby, or do you know what part of the community?
The square. He davens in the square.
On the square. And are they originally Canadian and born in Montreal, or do you know?
His wife is from Montreal. He is from New York. Yeah.
When I saw the video, I thought somebody videoed this but didn't do anything. And I wonder if you could tell us through like how you got the video and what bystanders said to you.
So I got the video on a WhatsApp group within the community, and I think this bystander that took the video actually called police. And if I'm not mistaken, it's even an Arab woman, and she went over and she shared the video with him.
Wow.
Yeah, and she called police, and they waited for a while. And then the victim himself, called the police, and he says it took an additional at least half an hour for the police to arrive.
Police seem to have taken a long time, but you weren't there. You were away. But this is what witnesses are saying. We don't know, right? Did you find out how much longer it took them?
I spoke to the victim. The victim himself claims it took over an hour. I do have contacts with the police department. So they came back to me with a time of 28 minutes. So I asked him to please go back, because I told him that there was an initial phone call from a witness, and then the victim himself called. So he said he will go back and check for the exact timing, but it was at least a half an hour.
And what are the injuries?
So first of all, he's extremely traumatized. So are his kids, to the fact that they don't even want to hold his hands now. He has facial bruises, and actually he does have a broken nose.
So is he home, or he's still in the hospital?
No, he's home. He's trying to recuperate. As I said, they're all very traumatized.
I'm so sorry to hear this news. Why don't they want to hold his hand?
They're afraid because they were there in the park with him, and they are so traumatized that they're afraid, like going with their father again is going to get them into trouble. It's a trauma that they went through, and this is how it's manifesting at this time.
You were an EMS, you're a volunteer. So you see all kinds of incidents all the time. And then you weren't there to do anything, but do you know if Hatzalah was already on the scene before the police came? Were they at all involved, or any kind of Jewish, first responders?
No, he did not call Hatzalah. I mean, he did speak to some of his friends afterwards that they are in Hatzalah, and they advised him to go to the hospital, which he did do.
And there seems to be some bystanders on the north side, or the top part of the screen, that were just standing there with their phones. 3 people, or 2 or 3 people. How does that sit with you that they didn't do anything?
Well, to be honest with you, if I would see somebody beating somebody, I would try to intervene, but I would also be mindful of, the guy could just come and hit me too. The video in a half a minute to a minute, it's very hard to judge those people, but I would have intervened.
Well, you're trained, though. You're trained in this stuff. You know how to deal with, this kind of situation, to de-escalate, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna be very honest with you. The last year and a half to 2 years, with all that's been going on to the streets, every single day has a toll. It affects people's opinions and people's minds. And I remember very vividly, people are gonna start being beaten in the street. You know, and so much negativity, so much anti-Jews in the media, in the streets, and nobody stood up. It's just being allowed to continue harassment, and this is the toll from all of these things. I did speak to a member of the federal government this week before, and I told that member that, you know what, I'm starting to understand how a Holocaust could have happened 80 years ago. So much going on, so much ridicule, so much attack, and nobody's speaking up and nobody's standing up. And it's just heartbreaking.
What does your community need now? And is anything is there a meeting going to happen this week, or are you getting together, praying? Do you know what people are doing?
It's very interesting now. Now, after the attack, everybody's calling, from the foreign minister of Israel to the president of Israel to member of parliament,
They called you? The foreign minister called you or him?
they're trying to reach him. Yeah, they are trying to get through to him. So from the president of Israel, foreign minister of Israel, through the ambassador of Israel to Canada, it really went viral, and I think people are starting to see that, you know what, something is really happening, and it needs to be dealt with. Meetings. I've been to so many meetings, so many discussions. Allowing unfestered hate to continue is what needs to stop. You don't need any meetings. We need action. That's what we need now.
2 weeks ago, when Prime Minister Carney announced that Canada was going to recognize Palestine, they also said they're going to have this bubble legislation. How do you think bubble legislation could have prevented something like this? Because it's not a shul, it's not a school, it's a public park. You can't have bubble, you know what I mean?
Bubble legislation can help. But you know what? Speaking out and acting more firmly is much more important than bubble legislation. Having people protest and harass the community for 2 years, chants from the river to the sea, we all know what it means. They all know what it means. Yet there's no way to find it to be threatening under the criminal code. A globalized intifada, what does that mean? We all know what intifada means. Yet these chants are going on daily for 2 years already. And even though this person might seem to have been a disturbed person, but when you see images and when you see attacks of the community daily, it could affect even a person like that to go out and act.
Well, this is what they were saying, is the bystanders thought there was something wrong with him.
Absolutely. And it just comes from these things being allowed to continue again and again and again without any stopping.
Is there a need in the family now for meals to financially support him? I mean, is he going to be able to work?
So obviously, he works, he has a business, but obviously he's going to have to take some time off, and he's going to have to go for therapy himself and his kids, and I'm sure it's going to take a financial burden on him. And if anybody that has any means, to offer therapy or financial support to them to be able to go through the therapy, obviously, but it would be welcome by the family.
How do they do that? Is there some kind of link or a phone number or something that I can
They can reach
later?
anybody that wants can reach out to me. Like, the Federation here in Montreal has already reached out, and I'm in the process of putting him in contact with the victim. They are in contact already, so it can be arranged through me if anybody wants.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing this with me.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Rabbi Saul Emanuel and the Jewish Community Council of Montreal did not issue a statement after Friday's attack, although CIJA and Federation CJA and other groups and politicians did, including Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, who called the beating stomach-turning. Rabbi Emanuel has been in Israel on the weekend and saw the video dozens of times. He says it's long past time for statements. Here's our conversation.
Putting our statements up to now has not resulted in any action. We want action. So we're going to put out a statement, of course, and everybody's criticizing what happened. That's fine. We all know that. But the problem is that we are consistently, and all groups and all Jewish groups are putting out statements, but we need have reaction to our statements. So that is why we want to have action, and we're working on action even from this distance and far away. The key issue, and that concerns us, is that we do constantly meet with the SPVM. We thank them for the work that they do, but unfortunately, it's not enough work. And we have mentioned this time and time again. It is not sufficient to have just a presence when the Jewish holidays come. It's not just enough to have a presence once in a blue moon on a Shabbat. And we saw that on Friday, an innocent victim with 2 children who have to watch this, who have to be affected for the rest of their lives by the trauma of seeing their father being attacked. No one coming to his defense. He's defenseless watching his children. It is great that the Prime Minister of Canada comes out with a statement, whilst at the same time supporting other statements regarding the war that is going on. But is anything being done besides making a statement? Are laws being passed that this person who does such an attack and who should be found, there are cameras, you see him clearly, and he still hasn't been found, incidentally. And I'm also informed that the police took a very long time to arrive at the scene of the crime. So it's great to put out statements. What action are you, Prime Minister Carney, taking to show and ensure that such a thing never happens again? What action are you taking to make sure that when this person is found, he doesn't get out on bail? What action are you taking to make sure that when this person is arrested, he's given the full throttle of the law and that he sits for a long time, or perhaps the key gets thrown away? Why? Because that is how you will show people in Canada that this is not tolerated in a free society, that a man cannot take his children to a park to enjoy themselves. That's what we want. Statements are fine, but statements are for reading. We need action.
There were about 3 bystanders kind of in the north top of the screen videoing it and not doing anything. Did you notice that too?
Yes, that's what I was saying before, that you have people walking by, it's become acceptable. If you are standing and someone is being hurt, someone is being attacked, and you don't do anything, then you are complicit of what's going on. You are with the person who's doing the attack. That means that you are fully endorsing because you're not taking any action. And that is why it's becoming acceptable that this kind of behavior continues, because no one is getting affected by it. No one is reacting to it. And the SPVM is not taking enough action to handle the situation.
So you're calling for more patrols regularly?
We are not only calling for more patrols. There was an anti-Semitism conference.
March 6th.
Absolutely, a conference was the last speech that Prime Minister Trudeau gave. Right. And they try to pass, they want to get new laws passed, they want to change the laws exactly as we're discussing. Nothing has happened yet. The world hasn't gotten safer, and they haven't done anything.
They're talking, I think you're mentioning the potential bubble legislation, which Prime Minister Carney said during the press conference when he recognized that Canada, is going to recognize Palestine. He also put that in there, by the way, we will bring in more safety measures for Canada's vulnerable populations. How would bubble legislation have even fixed that?
No. And so that's why the legislation should not be for a specific institution. Legislation has to be passed in terms of the law of Canada, of anyone moving around freely in a free and open society, which Canada has always been known for, that anywhere that a person gets attacked, there is a law in place that protects that person who was attacked and takes care of the person that attacked, in the sense that they get the full justice of the law without any mercy whatsoever. You cannot, if this was anybody else, if this was any other religion, I would like to see how the reaction would have gone down. But unfortunately, it's our community. So the reaction is slow. The reaction is not very positive. The reaction is not very quick. They just make statements and then you move on. And if it happens again next week, Ellen, we just move on.
I mean, they did get when your schools were shot at. They eventually did find the culprits and they charged them. That was from November of 2023, and then last year they found the guys. So I mean, it took a while, but
I mentioned at the outset, we thank them for the work that they do and they've done, but unfortunately, it's not enough. We need a lot more.
do you think anything could be learned from what Toronto does, where they have like these police command posts that are permanently stationed outside Jewish school? There's 2 of them, one outside a Jewish plaza, and it's been there since October 2023, which is all the time. Do they have that in Montreal, where they have like bureaus?
Absolutely not. And at the same time, they don't have enough staffing, I'm understanding, or so we get told. They don't have enough staffing for it. That creates a problem. But when it comes to something of this nature, where innocent people, children, bystanders are being affected, well, then you know what? Let's get the patrols put in place. Let's have it happen. Do something that's going to address the situation. Do something that will make the community feel safer. How do we as individuals and small children witnessing this kind of an act feel tomorrow going to synagogue, feel tomorrow going to school, feel tomorrow going to camp, feel tomorrow going to the park, feel tomorrow going to the swimming pool? How does one expect them to feel safe when we don't have that protection? So as you're saying, more has to be done. We need innovative ideas to make people see the presence of the SPVM, which will then create a safety net, and people who would want to do such an attack would think twice, because they know that the arm of the law is right there, ready to arrest them if something goes wrong.
What are people telling you on your texts and on your communication that you can share?
What are we as a Jewish community doing to address the issue? It's not a Montreal issue. It's an Ottawa issue. It's a Toronto issue. It's a Vancouver issue. It's a Winnipeg issue. So it's affecting us everywhere. And that is why we need a collective Canadian government to address this issue. This should be the first thing to be addressed. What are we going to do to protect the citizens who are Jewish in our country of Canada, that they can move around freely, safely, and without fear of being attacked? What are we going to do? That will show us that you, Prime Minister, care, and that it's not just a statement. Address it. Take it to Parliament and say, we need to address it. Let's get the experts. Let's get the security people. Let them tell us what should be done and give their ideas and make it federal as to what will take place going forward.
When you're in Israel, people saw this when the Shabbat was over about what happened in Canada. What did they say to you?
Right after Shabbat, there were numerous people that I saw. I went to different meetings. So obviously, everybody's saying, did you see what happened in Montreal? Did you see? Is it safe? What's going on? What's with the anti-Semitism? How did they treat the community? And all the same questions that you get everywhere. And people texting me, sending me the video. I've seen the video many times, and saying, is it safe to go around Canada? Now, people forget that unfortunately we're living in a world where it's not very safe anywhere, even Israel. But as a community in Canada, which is supposed to be a free and you can move around, do what you can up until now, it's certainly changing, and we have to address it quickly. But the answer to your question is, we are getting so many people here in Israel saying, what is happening in Canada? What is happening? Why is this anti-Semitic acts increasing? And so many of them are happening, like you mentioned, the schools, the shuls, the synagogues, and, just these different attacks. Now, you must remember that hopefully from this one doesn't have a copy attack. These things, if a person gets away with it, then God forbid you can have a copycat attack, and people say, it's become acceptable to do such a thing.
After the 10-day Hamas Israel war in 2021, visibly Jewish people in Montreal got attacked. We're already at a higher level of anxiety.
Right. Explain it. This kind of attack has taken it to a new level, because in 21, it was sort of on a lighter scale. Not, of course, that was terrible, and we remember it clearly. But today, because of what's going on in the world and the general atmosphere that exists in universities, at campuses, in New York, all over, wherever you look in the United States and in Canada, and all over, the attitude and the anti-Semitic jargon that's going on has become acceptable. And the reason why it's become acceptable because it's not being addressed. So you want to address something, you have to address it. And you've got to take strong action, firm action, and address it with all of the power at your disposal. Any government, Ellen, can do that. Canadian government has to do that. That's what we're waiting for them to do.
Lastly, earlier in our interview, you mentioned Carney. Is this at all on your minds of your community, that what one says on one hand impacts what happens on the other?
I don't think it's related, but unfortunately, when you do have a Canadian government and a prime minister, and some of our Jewish members of parliament that belong to the government that tacitly approve of what's going on and making decisions for another country, which has nothing to do with them. They don't make decisions for Canada, and no one interferes with Canadian politics. So why are we as Canada making decisions for another country? So I'm sure it does affect it. So when you have a leader that's making comments and, I would say, so to speak, taking a side in the conflict and saying things the way he believes and understands the way they are, that certainly creates a feeling where perhaps it's permissible to carry out these acts because the government is with us on the same side.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of North Star, made possible thanks to the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Montreal police didn't respond by the time we've recorded this with an update on the investigation, but a source who was not authorized to speak to reporters says finding the suspect is a force priority. North Star is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman and Andrea Varsany. Michael Freeman is our executive producer, and the theme music is by Brett Higgins. Thanks for listening.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.